So, had one of my subscribers, MGK2613, leave a comment under my last video that I wanted to answer. I thought I would write a reply, but I figured, you know what? Let's just make it a full video. And this is totally unscripted. I haven't written anything out. Just a quick outline that I'll put on the screen so you can kind of see where this discussion is going to go. But I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm just going to kind of go with it and see where it goes. And let me apologize because I don't normally do this because I tend to ramble when I don't have my thoughts written down exactly. So if I start rambling, just forgive me. But I'm hoping to start a nice discussion and give a good answer to Mr. MGK there. But anyway, to his comments. So he says that, and this is just paraphrasing, he had his first trip to Bermuda in 2013 for his honeymoon. And he came back last year trying to recreate the experience, stayed at the reefs like he did in 2013, and the experience was terrible in comparison, right? And it says not in isolated instances, but it was just terrible all the way around. And he spoke to several cab drivers that gave him various reasons for why things were terrible. And he came to the channel and was asking if these criticisms that he was hearing from these taxi drivers were accurate. They were quoting things such as the focus on downtown and banking, the rise in crime, cyber disruptions, and the COVID crisis really impacting the island more than most places. And his question to me was, are any of these critiques accurate? And what's my opinions on the status of the tourism industry in Bermuda? Said he lives in New Jersey, and many people who used to go to Bermuda are now going to Cayman, Aruba, and Turks because the experience has proven to be consistently better. So, I struggled a bit trying to figure out how to answer this. I went to Twitter and sort of posted it to a few people because one thing I try not to do on this channel is be overly negative, but at the same time try to give you guys the truth. The truth that gets me in a lot of trouble with some people, but I think it's important to share, right? And I'm not going to clickbait you or anything and leave it to the end of the video before I answer the question. His question was, is the criticism accurate? And I would have to say yes. The criticism is accurate. Bermuda in 2023, the tourism industry in Bermuda in 2023 is not where it was even 10 years ago. It's not there. And if you want to go back even farther, 20, 30 years ago, it's even farther away from there. And there's a lot of reasons why that is, right? So what is the state of the tourism industry right now? So let me give you some background. I am now old enough to be a person with hindsight in this, right? Like someone in their 20s or teens, they're not going to know what Bermuda was like in the early 2000s or, definitely not the 90s. And during those times, I would work various summer jobs in the tourism industry. I worked Coral Beach, running drinks and serving food and beverages on the beach. I've also worked at Oleander Cycles, renting out mopeds. And, so I can tell you firsthand, like, I wasn't around for the golden age of Bermuda tourism, which was like the 60s and 70s. But I was around in the 90s and the early 2000s when comparatively it was a golden age compared to how things are now. Back then, I remember, like, for example, renting bikes at Oleander Cycles. I often worked in the St. George's area. We had 3 separate shops in St. George's alone. One at St. George's Club, one on Water Street, and then a temporary one at Tiger Bay that we had to erect because there was just so much business. Like every week we would rent out every single last bike, like hundreds and hundreds of bikes. The tourists would come, the town was bustling, there were clubs, there were restaurants, all this stuff, hotels. It was a great place to be, and that was just one little area on the island, just in the St. George's area. Now if you go to St. George's, it's basically a ghost town, and it's sad to see, especially because I used to live and work in St. George's at the time, and it was just so like popping. It was active, it was lively. Now you go there and it's dead. It's dead. They get the odd ferry coming from dockyard that people want us to celebrate like it's some great achievement. But when if you have the hindsight like I do, and when you realize what St. George's used to be like, it's just crazy to realize how far it's declined, and that's emblematic of the entire industry in Bermuda. Unfortunately, it's like you look at all the hotels that used to exist 10, 15 years ago, and look at this landscape now. It's like there's no Alba Beach, there's no Southampton Princess. There's no St. George's Club. Like, you can go on and on. The list goes on and on. And even if you look at, like I said, I was renting bikes for Indiana Cycles. Look at the state of that business now. Like, they just don't get the volume that they used to because we don't get as many tourists. They have the down to one shop in St. George's from the three, and one that's barely operational. I think it only opens once or twice a week. They closed their Southampton location. They're really just operating out of Paget, Hamilton, and Dockyard now, where previously they would have thousands of bikes on the island, just renting them out from all these different locations. But we just don't have the volume anymore. And yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that. So in order to explain the decline, I guess the conversation has to start with the rise of international business. International business became our major breadwinner in the 90s, and since then it's really sort of dominated everything. Like, the focus has shifted from, like, we used to be a mostly tourism based economy, and now we're an international business economy, right? And they call them the two pillars, but really it's one pillar and one decaying old leg. So that's played a big role in it. We have all these exempt companies come in, and they're driving up prices, and they're paying all the big salaries. So people are naturally sort of gravitating towards that, and the focus of everybody on the island gets shifted towards that. And you might say, well, why can't you do both? And that's a great question. We should be able to do both. We should have both. It's like, it's such a great opportunity for everybody involved, but it just hasn't happened that way. So another big reason for the decline, in my opinion, is all the immigration away from the island. Like, there was an article posted the other day that we don't know the exact amount of people that have left the island in the last few years, but they say it's roughly the equivalent to an entire parish, like thousands. Our population is on the decline because of low birth rates, and also because so many people are just choosing to move off the island because it's just too expensive for a lot of people. There hasn't been any major studies done into it, but I think anecdotal evidence is valid here, because we all know somebody that's moved off. I know several people that's left the island. They all quote the same thing. They can't find proper work here, or at least not work that's going to be able to allow them to sustain an adequate standard of living. So the only choice really is to go somewhere else. And they've found it in England, which is where most people are going. You can get a British passport pretty easily because we're still a colony. So that's where people are choosing to go. And because of that, I mean, you have a lot of talent and a lot of people that would normally be involved in tourism that are just choosing to leave because you can't make a decent living in tourism. Or if you do get one of those jobs, it's normally like a bartender or something where, it's sort of hard to raise a family when you're out serving drinks for 12 hours a day. So, yeah, people are just choosing to leave. Another reason for the decline, and this is a bigger topic that I'm just going to brush over right now, but I think we've failed to adapt, So we have the Bermuda Tourism Authority, which is supposed to be sort of this independent entity that acts as an advocate for the tourism industry in Bermuda, and also it communicates wants, needs, all of that stuff to the government, to the unions, sort of acts as that middle person, the grease that keeps everything good. So, for various reasons, it sort of lost its independence and lost a lot of its teeth and a lot of its usefulness. So it just hasn't been able to do the job that it exists to do. And then we have the unions that are, in my opinion, way too powerful on this island, that are sort of gumming up the works again. They're not allowing a lot of these businesses to be as flexible as they need to be. And going hand in hand with the unions here is the government. Like, we need the government to be able to help us adapt, allow us to work within, or government's supposed to be able to change these boundaries to make it easier for people to do things that would benefit the industry. But they aren't doing it for various reasons. Like I said, that's a big topic, but I'm just brushing over it. But yeah, if you want to look at the big three reasons, I would say those were it. Like international business, the rise of international business, immigration, and then our inability to adapt. Basically, what it comes down to is, we made the choice, or Bermuda has become a country that no longer specializes in tourism. We just dabble in it. It's like a part-time job, It's not really our serious point anymore, but yeah, we still entertain it. We still put some hours in, but it's not our main focus anymore. And it's a shame because we really had a good thing going there. So I thought I would leave this with a question, like, is Bermuda still worth visiting? And I would say wholeheartedly, like with all my heart, all honesty, I say yes, right? And it's not just because I'm here running a Bermuda-focused YouTube channel. I truly believe that Bermuda is still worth visiting. It's beautiful. The people are friendly. It's 700 miles off the East Coast. You can get here in 90 minutes from New York. There's lots of value here. There's lots of value. There's lots of things to do. Not as many as it used to be, but it's still plenty of opportunity here to have a great time on your vacation. But I think the important thing is to realize that it's probably geared more towards a certain type of traveler than the general, I just want to lounge on the beach and have a good time on a budget type of vacation that we used to get tons of. And I've had the benefit of meeting lots of my subscribers on this channel. Like, I don't have many subscribers, but quite a few have reached out to me while they were here. And, I was able to take them out, show them different things and stuff like that. And this is where I sort of disagree with how, again, the Bermuda Tourism Authority advertises Bermuda currently. I think they're advertising Bermuda as a place that doesn't exist, right? Like, you look at a lot of their adverts and you look at their YouTube channel and the way that they present Bermuda, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but that's really not what Bermuda is. You're more describing places like Turks and Caicos and Barbados and all those places in the Caribbean. Bermuda's a different place, and it's a different experience. It's a great experience, but you got to tell people about it, and you got to make sure that they know, because I'll tell you one story. I met some people who found my channel while they were on the island. So they came to Bermuda on a whim. They just said, look, Bermuda. They saw a commercial. They were like, bang, let's go on spring break. They came. They were, unfortunately for them, like I said, like anybody that's been to Bermuda knows, like spring break isn't a thing here because, or at least not the traditional one, because springtime here, it's still winter. Like, it's not warm. You're not going to be like on the beach lounging in the sun. It's cold. It's not that type of vacation. But they didn't know that. And BTA isn't telling people things like that. So you had them come down here and they're like, there's no events going on. It's the off season. And they're like, well, what is there to do? So they ended up looking on YouTube and finding my channel, looking at some of my videos and then reaching out. And they're like, okay, they were only here for another like day or two, I think, by the time they reached out. And, I took them out. I took them back a ton. I took them to Fish Fry down at Blue Anglers. I took them to a few different places. I took them to the normal stuff too. Some of the beaches on South Shore. I took them all over the place. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the experience you get in Bermuda is different, right? It's not like this Caribbean tropical paradise where you can come and get all these services and an all-inclusive hotel. Like, we don't offer that. That doesn't exist. But what we do offer is unique and special. And that's why I try to highlight that sort of stuff, Like, we got so much, like, good food here, like, generous people, places to, like, party and have a good time, different events. I think we need to focus more on that type of stuff. We may not be able to get the general tourists anymore, but there's a lot of events that could take place here because, like, I just came back from St. Kitts, right? I came back from St. Kitts. I was in St. Kitts for a wedding. I had a great time. But one thing I realized is that, like, that's a place that takes tourism seriously because they're in the industry. They take it seriously. That's their main industry. They take it seriously. You can go have your drinks on the beach. There's lots of hotels. It's relatively good price, although the food was kind of expensive, or more expensive than I thought, because I guess they suffer from the same island inflation that we do. But regardless of all that, it was a great time. And I can see that being the type of place that our tourism authority advertises us as. But that's just not what we are, right? That's not what we are. But we have certain benefits. Like Bermuda is so much more developed than St. Kitts is. Like we have, as much as I rag on it, we have a functional public transportation system. They don't. You know, we have like an actual city, like a big city that's supported by a corporation that has all these businesses, has lots of business space, office space, and all of that. St. Kitts doesn't, right? And these are valuable things that you can sell to people. You know, like what if we got more events here? Like we should be focusing more on getting events here. Like when we got America's Cup and we had all these mega yachts coming down and all these people visiting for the races and stuff. We should be focusing more on those types of experiences than trying to attract the average tourist, right? Because we're not going to get them anymore. They're going south. They're going to the Caribbean where they get better value for their dollar. And I don't blame them for that. So if you want me to answer that question, or if you're looking for an answer to that question, is Bermuda worth visiting? Yes, it's worth visiting. But you have to realize what you're going to get when you're here. Bermuda is expensive, right? It's expensive, but it's a place that's very safe. It's a place that's very clean. It's a place where you can go to the beach and have the entire beach to yourself all day, basically, you know, or see very few people. It's an upscale place, right? It's upscale. The people are a little bougie. You know, the food's really good. You know, there's a lot of, there's a interesting drinking and party culture here that, you know, I'm not going to find at too many different places, but it's a great time. But you have to tell people about these things. They're not going to know it right off the bat. If you advertise it as some sort of Jamaica knockoff, they're going to come here and they're going to be disappointed because that's not what we are. I think I'll leave it at that, right? I hope that answered some of these questions for you. If anyone else is listening to this and this is useful, this was very informal. This is not what my videos are normally like. And I'm not going to edit it much because I want to make sure I get this video out on time so that I'm working on something pretty that I've been looking forward to, that I'm hoping to have up next week. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. It's more of a look at what I'm talking about, like something that you would only find in a place like Bermuda. You know, I think I'm going to start focusing more on that so that you guys can see different types of things, different type of foods you can eat, different activities you can do while you're in Bermuda. Stuff like that that the average tourist would never hear about because they're not getting involved in the community like that. That's the other thing I want to say. We need people here that are going to get involved. If you want to be like involved, it's not just getting off a cruise ship and lounging on the beach for a couple of days. If you want a genuine experience, Bermuda is a great place for you because we will take you in and we will treat you like a Bermudian. That's the type of stuff you want to do when you come here, right? And if you're that type of person, then Bermuda's a great place. But I'm going to start focusing on that for some future videos. Really good one coming up next week. I hope this ramble chat was useful to somebody out there. And I hope you guys contribute in the comments. Like, what do you think? What do you think about Bermuda? Have you been to Bermuda recently? What's your experience? And what would you advise if you are a Bermudian or if you've been someone that has a lot of experience here? Like, what would you advise to people that are contemplating coming to Bermuda? What do you like? What would you tell them? Right? Anyway, I'm gonna end this here. Stick around. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next video.